Slowly it became bright, and the cold night gave way to a warm day. The birds chirped happily, spreading the news that the first chroma stars were already shining in the sky. The girl was awakened by the loud chirping and looked around. The fire had gone out and Glaczio was still asleep a few meters away from her. I could hardly sleep. This night didn't really do much for me. I'm still tired and also a bit exhausted. Luckily, he's still asleep. She stood up and stumbled as quietly as possible to Falconheart. Arukas had already been awake and was sitting on a stone path, ready to continue his journey. Cheyenne would not say goodbye to her acquaintance at all, but would simply leave. That way it would be easier for everyone involved, and he wouldn't be able to stop them. She untied the reins of her horse from the tree and swung herself in the saddle. One last time she looked at her former companion, who had helped her on her way, before the girl got the horse going, rode onto the stone path and moved further and further away from the sleeping place. It had been a few minutes since she had ridden off when she heard something behind her. Cheyenne feared they were knights again, and she looked back. Oh no. Glaczio came trotting along the stone path on his pony and tried to catch up with her. The girl was already afraid that he would fall down at any moment, but he held on surprisingly well in the saddle of the wild-trotting little horse. Hey, little angel, I changed my mind. I don't want you to wander around alone. I'm happy to risk my life for a pretty girl, you know that. Actually, I didn't even believe that you were serious about the whole thing. In any case, I have come to the conclusion that I may not quite agree with your decision after all, and ta-da! Here I am, again on the side of my pretty angel. That's not possible. Did he notice that I was gone? I thought he was sleeping. And the justification he just gave was another lousy excuse. Why does he want to stay with me, no matter what? Cheyenne wanted to ask him this question at the very moment when suddenly the ground gave way and crumbled under the weight of the horses. Falconheart reared and slipped with his hind legs, fell down the slope. It's like Glaczio told me, just with this village further up in the cliffs of mountains. The Luminian deficiency causes the ground to collapse. No, Falconheart! Ha! Before she knew it, she fell down a slope about 10 meters steep, just like Arukas, Glaczio, and his pony. Cheyenne closed her eyes and tried in vain to hold on to somewhere and find her balance. Here and there her body was intercepted by rocks and falling stones crashed against her until she finally landed painfully on the hard ground at the end of the slope. For a brief moment she couldn't breathe and writhed in pain. Then she could finally breathe again, but her whole body was shaking. She opened her eyes and saw many scratches on her arms and legs. They must have come from the fall just now. The girl tried to realize what had happened, but it was very difficult for her, because everything happened so fast. I'm still alive. Oh no! Falconheart, Arukas! Her concern for the companions caused Cheyenne to have enough strength to stand up limping. Her gaze wandered wildly, and she searched the surroundings with it. Finally she found her horse, almost unharmed, standing next to the fallen rocks. It had only suffered a few scratches, but otherwise seemed to be fine, and was now trotting towards Cheyenne. She could also discover Arukas. He had somehow managed to get to a ledge, from which he now climbed down and ran to the girl as well. Luckily you're both fine and only have a few scratches. Cheyenne stroked both of them, and then she caught sight of Glaczio. She had almost forgotten him in all the excitement and confusion. He knelt in front of his pony. It lay motionless on the ground, not moving an inch. The healer stood up, and the girl saw why the little horse stopped moving. One of the broken rocks of the stone path lay directly on the head of the brown pony. Blood gushed out from underneath and made its way through more small stones to the ground. It had been beaten to death, the entire head smashed. Cheyenne didn't want to see the dead animal anymore and narrowed her eyes, turned her head away. She was breathing faster and her heart was making small misfires. If she hadn't ridden off alone, but had waited until Glaczio had woken up and walked the path with him, it might have already collapsed or they would have taken another way. If I hadn't acted so hastily, the pony would be still alive. I make one mistake after another. I can never do anything right. Cheyenne once again blamed herself for everything that had happened. Glaczio approached her and saw that she had begun to cry. He tried to comfort her. Hey, little angel, it was already old and sick anyway. I spent all of my remaining money on it, but well, what the heck. But I have to admit, I kinda like the little one. It's a pity that it blessed the temporal. But no one could have known that the ground up there would collapse just like that. These paths here should actually be tested and safe. He tried to hide the fact that he was actually a little sad about the death of the pony, which he had grown a little fond of during the last 2 weeks. Plagued by remorse, Cheyenne left the healer standing, swung into Falconheart's saddle and tried to speak as best she could. I'm so sorry. Then she turned her horse and rushed away into the forest. Glaczio called after her. It wasn't your fault. Cheyenne, stay here, wait! But the girl did not pay attention to his words and disappeared with her companions among the trees. Only some of her tears she left behind.